Hi there, it's Miriam with Engadget, and this here is the Kinzo by Verzo. It's this phone that we've so far only seen as renders, and finally we've got a review in it, so it's real, yeah. And it's pretty massive. I don't know if you can see my hands here, but also it's pretty much all last year as far as tech goes. It has a 4.3-inch display, 800 by 480. It's a LCD. It's not bad, it's not great. And spec-wise, there's a 1 gigahertz processor inside, a single core with 512 megs of RAM. So that's pretty much the specs. Let me walk you around this phone a little bit. It's pretty lightweight, but it's made out of a very, very cheap plastic. It's well made, but the materials are really quite cheap. So let me walk you through. Starting at the top here, you'll notice that there's some sensors and an earpiece, of course. Next to it is a front-facing camera right there. I don't know if you can see it. And then on the bottom you've got the usual 4 capacitive keys and a microphone, a menu, home, search and back keys, as well as this mic. And this here is the Verzo logo. It looks a lot like the Verzo logo, very interestingly, but certainly this does not feel as well made by any means as a Verzo phone. Now on the top here you don't really have much. The only thing is the power lock key. It's a bit of a weird angle, as you can see here. Then on the left hand side here you have the headphone jack, volume rocker, also kind of stylized. A very interesting styling actually. I think the design is pretty attractive, but it's really bulky, so it kind of defeats the attractiveness. Here's the speaker at the bottom and the micro USB power data jack right there. Nothing really on the right hand side, sorry. So in the back, is what it looks like. Big prominent Verzo logo here, and then it's designed by a company called Novag or Novag. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. As well as the 5 megapixel autofocus camera. Again, very much last year's spec. 5 megapixel autofocus, 720p HD video, and an LED flash. So that's basically a walk around. As far as software goes, this is running Froyo. As I said, it's very much last year's phone. So we've got a good serving of Froyo. Let me show you here. The settings are a little different in layout, but if you go about phone here, you can see it's running Android 2.2, and that's all you're going to get. Again, it's called the Kinzo. You can see that name there. What's interesting is that it's mostly plain Android. Hasn't been skinned much. There is a few skinnings here on the front screen with the app tray. This kind of like gray background behind the apps kind of reminds of the recent LG Nitro reviewed and some of the MyTouch phones from T-Mobile. So of course it doesn't scroll sideways, it's up and down because it's original Froyo. It feels a little sluggish, but it's mostly because of the animations. Generally it feels pretty fast. Like the home screens here are pretty smooth. So again, some custom widgets here for the time and the weather, and it comes preloaded with Sigic, which is a navigation app. I'll show you that. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get it to work, and so far that it seems to be connecting to the internet. I'm not in New York, I'm in San Francisco right now. It seems to be connecting to the internet, and it seems to be activating the GPS all right. So it's found me here in San Francisco, but it seems to not wanting to load the maps at all. No map data seems to be coming in at all. It shows me the satellite availability for GPS here. Doesn't seem to really take into account any of the cellular positioning stuff. So this is how it sits here for minutes, and no maps get displayed. So I'm not quite sure what's wrong with this specifically, but that's it. So I'm just gonna quit out of this and bring you back to it's saving some data. So that's one of the preloaded apps that's free, and apparently it's normally a paid app, so that's kind of exciting, I suppose. Yeah, so other than that, radio-wise, this has a tri-band radio for 2100 for this is for 3G, 2100 for Europe, of course, but also has 850 and 1900 for the US. I have an AT&T SIM here, and as you can see, I'm connected via HSPA Plus, or well, maybe just HSPA, not quite sure. And you know, it's not bad. It works fine. Reception's all right. Call quality's fine. All that stuff. Everything works. That's the thing about this phone. There's no surprises, but it really isn't anything really exciting, and it's very large and bulky to today's standards. Of course, there's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, front-facing camera, as I mentioned, a rear camera, headphone, all the stuff you'd expect. Let me actually take the battery cover off so you can have a look. There's a place here for me to pry this off. So this is what it looks like. In the back, there's the battery, and you can see the micro SD card slot, the SIM card. See if I can take the battery out. So I'm trying to see if there is any capacity indicated here for you guys. Yes, it's 1500, looks like 1500 milliamps or so. It's hard for me to read. 1500 or so milliamps, nothing big. It's pretty thin battery, as you can see. And then of course here you've got serial number, all that stuff. You've got SIM card right there, and a micro SD. Comes with an 8 gig card. Let me put that back. So there you have it. Nothing really much going on here. I mean, it's a pretty big empty space around the battery. That gives you an idea how big the phone actually is. So the battery cover just snaps back in place like you'd expect. Kind of like a Galaxy S2, just press all the corners. Let me turn this on so you can see what it looks like booting. So it says, diversify yourself, which has been their motto in all their marketing so far. Pretty silly if you ask me, but hey. And so eventually boots up. And here you go. So here's our kind of cool little laser etched Verzo-ish logo. You can see. And there you have it. And somehow I've managed to put it in silent mode, so I'll just turn it back on. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Let me give you a size comparison with some other phones so you get an idea how gigantic this phone is. Here is a Galaxy Nexus. So as you can see, it's the same footprint as the Galaxy Nexus, right? But with a smaller size screen, so there's a lot of bezel. And then when you look at the back, this is what it looks like. You can really see the footprint is almost identical. It's actually somewhat larger, possibly. But the thickness is really where it's mind-boggling. So here is the Verzo versus the, you can see here where my fingers are as a point of reference. This is the Galaxy Nexus and the Kinzo, Verzo Kinzo here. And then another comparison that probably is meaningful to a lot of you is next to an iPhone. So here's actually an iPhone with lots of notifications on the screen. Here you have it. So this is an iPhone 4S, white, obviously. And so as you can see, this is a really massive phone. Massive phone. And if I pull them over and turn them over, you can see the difference in size again. And then finally, if I stack them up against each other, huge difference. I mean, this is massive difference in size here. So you can see how much thicker this phone is than the iPhone. I mean, it's probably wasn't too bad back about a year ago, since everything about this phone is about a year old spec-wise. It's not so bad, but it seems really bulky. Maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe that's the status symbol, status thing they were going for with this. Not sure. It does have some interesting design with this kind of more diamond shape on the side here, and that weird angle. But the materials feel really cheap. You can feel some rough edges here around the bezel, right here especially, where the mold marks are from the plastic mold. I can see this probably flaking, the paint starting to flake here if you were to use this quite a bit because of this imperfection. Stuff like that. But it is very usable. Everything works. It's just you want to spend the kind of money that Verzo is asking for the Kinzo for a phone that's a year old, that's massive, and it's running Froyo on. Probably won't be getting too many updates. So one of the special features about this phone is this Tell Me app. So there it is. I just bypassed the login screen so you didn't see the password and stuff. But basically, it lets you make suggestions and about the phone to the manufacturer and kind of lets them crowdsource the improvements that are going to be made to both the software and the hardware for the Kinzo going forward. Presumably they're going to be iterating on this. As you can see, there's a couple of issues already in there. There's a gingerbread request, headphone jack to be moved from the side here to the top. So these are some of the things. You can make a suggestion, you can see all the suggestions, and then of course you can add your own suggestion here. That's pretty much one of the kind of unique features about the Kinzo. So I quickly wanted to show you web browsing on this. So here we are. Here's the web browser, and I'll just type in Gadget up here. 4.3 inch screen, so it's relatively easy to type on. It's the default Android keyboard, no surprises here. So I'm connected over Wi-Fi pretty quickly, and desktop version coming up. Still loading. It's a little chunky while it's loading. I mean, this is pretty much what you expect from an Android phone running a 1 gigahertz CPU from last year. The usual Android clunkiness. The touchscreen can be a little tricky sometimes with dry fingers. Tip of my fingers are pretty dry right now. It's a year old, like everything else about this phone. There you go, finished loading. So I don't think I have Flash installed on this at all right now. Anyway, watch the Engadget show. Cheers.